पृथिवी शान्तिरन्तरिक्षगं शान्तिर् द्यौः शान्तिर्दिशः शान्तिरवान्तर दिशा शान्तिरग्निः शान्तिर्वायुः शान्तिरादित्यः शान्तिश्चन्द्रमा शान्तिर्नक्षत्राणि शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिर्वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्गौः शान्तिरजा शान्तिरश्वः शान्तिः पुरुषः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिर्ब्राह्मणः शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः शान्तिर्मे अस्तु शान्तिः. May there be peace on earth and in the sky. May there be peace in the water and in all directions. May there be peace in the plants, in the trees, and in animals. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings. May there be peace in everyone and in everything. Sarvetra sukhinas santu, sarve santu niramayaha. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet. Sarvastaratu durgani sarvo bhadrani pashyatu. Sarvas sadbuddhimapnotu sarvas sarvatra nandatu. May all be happy and healthy. May all see what is good, and may no one experience misery. May all overcome their obstacles and acquire good tendencies. May people everywhere find joy and fulfillment. Let us now spend some time touching the center of peace and joy in our hearts. A good way to begin the practice is to withdraw the scattered energies of the mind and bring them to rest on one point. That point can be our own breathing. Let us therefore practice breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, let us visualize that our body and mind are being filled with love, strength, and compassion. And as we breathe out, let us release all the stress, anxiety, and exhaustion in the body and mind. Let us practice this way for a while. Let us now turn our attention to the region of our heart. Although God is present everywhere and in everyone, the divine presence can be felt most clearly in our own hearts. We can meditate in any way we have been taught. To remain focused, we can take the help of a short mental prayer or a mantra or a divine name. Let us now spend some time dwelling on the presence of God in our hearts. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayeti Rudrayatte Dakshinam Mukham Tenamam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine Consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. Begin today on verse number 23. Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo na medhaya na bahuna shrutena yame vaisha vrunute tena labhyaha tasyaisha atma vivrunute tanum swam. This Atman cannot be attained by the study of the Vedas, not by intellect, nor even by much learning. By him it is attained whom it chooses. This, his own Atman, reveals its own real form. This is also an often quoted verse of the Upanishad. Na ayam Atma, this Atman, na pravachanena labhyaha. Pravachana is a study. And here specifically means study of the Vedas. Swami Vivekananda once said that the Vedas are the only scriptures which say that the Vedas have to be discarded at some point. Because one of the dangers in spiritual life is what we might call book worship, because knowledge comes to us, or at least information, from books, and especially books which we see as revealed texts. For Hindus, it is the Vedas, or the Bible, or the Quran. So these are the central scriptures in every tradition. And because these are the primary sources of knowledge for us, sometimes we might elevate them to such an extent that we begin worshipping the books up to a certain point. The respect and the reverence for the word, the holy word, the word of God, the sacred word is understandable. But sometimes what happens is we lose the sense of proportion. There are places, I've seen it in India certainly, where the Vedas, the books, are kept and worshipped. Now, again, it's understandable because it contains sacred words and mantras. But if all that I do is just put that book on the altar someplace and keep on worshipping it, without ever bothering to read it, or without ever bothering to understand what it is saying, then it's not really doing me any good. If anything, it's actually doing me harm. So, book worship can be really very harmful. And that's why Vedas warn us by pointing out, you cannot attain God, you cannot attain the truth through the study of the Vedas. Now, what it means is this, not that the study of the Vedas is useless, but if we think that, oh, now I have studied this, now the knowledge is mine to take, that's not going to happen. The reason is, what the books give us is indirect knowledge. The books contain words. The words, if they make sense to us, of course, now the words here are in Sanskrit, and if we don't know the Sanskrit language, it won't make sense to us, which is why then we need a translation. Now, whichever language the words are translated in, if we understand that language, then it would convey some meaning to us. That meaning, depending on our language skill and ability to grasp, is grasped by the brain. So whatever knowledge comes to us, that is an intellectual knowledge. That knowledge is very cerebral. And that can be very satisfying. Not totally satisfying, but fairly satisfying. So it has some utility. But knowledge of the self is not intellectual knowledge. Knowledge of the self does not, therefore, reading of books is not enough in order to get that knowledge. Not only is it not enough, if my reading is not done with a proper attitude, with a proper frame of mind, instead of revealing to me the truth, it might drag me into greater ignorance. For instance, now, after studying this, I feel, oh, now I'm a big scholar. I have studied with many other people don't know, now I know. So this pride and the egoism that can be generated in my heart will actually obscure the truth. So there has to be the right attitude towards study. The second thing is, of course, in these primary texts, the meaning is usually not on the line, but between the lines. And therefore, to understand the hidden, lower, the deeper layers of the meaning, we need to then keep on reflecting over the text. So merely reading of the text is not enough. So that's the idea that is put here. This Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a person who wants to go shopping. Now, if you have a lot of things to buy, there is the danger that I might forget some of the things that are needed. So we all make a shopping list. And then go to a mall or wherever you get your stuff. And then as you get the things, you kind of cross them in your list. Once you have gotten all the things on your list, what are you going to do? You don't need the list anymore, since you've already gotten the things. And therefore, you can throw the list away. So, the books are a little bit like the shopping list. They tell us what we need to do, how we can do it. Then, well, we must do it. Simply, it's like if we just get a manual of how to do manual and just say 1, 2, 3, 4. Simply reading it is not going to get the things done. Actually, I must do something about it. Now, once it is done and the purpose is accomplished, I don't need that book anymore. And so the Vedas at that point become useless. Vedas become useless to the enlightened being. The Vedas themselves say, Tatra Vedaha Aveda Bhavanti. The Vedas become non-Vedas. So that is the idea here. So merely through the study of books, the Atman cannot be reached. Na medhaya, not merely through the intellect. Na bahudha shrutena, not through much learning. So all of these things have a utility, but limited utility. Then by whom is it attained? If by none of these things. Yame vaisha vrunute tena lapyaha. It is attained by the person to whom the Atman chooses. Now this is a little bit of an enigmatic part of the verse. The question is, how much role does self-effort play in my getting the experience of the self? So the question, first of all, is, who is trying to know the self? Me. But I am the self. I am the Atman. So the Atman
is trying to know the Atman. That's essentially the thing. Now, so what we can say is, the Atman who has forgotten that I am the Atman, the ignorant Atman has read about the Atman in a book, is now trying to know the Atman. And what this verse points out is, now this Atman who doesn't know that I am the Atman now, seeks nothing but the Atman, seeks nothing but its own self, and seeks nothing else other than the self. To such a self, that self will be revealed. Now, why is it kind of put in these terms? One of the challenges in these discussions is the knowledge of the self a result of any activity? It's more a philosophical query because, oh, I have worked hard. By this hard work, I have removed the ignorance, and now the knowledge has come to me. If the knowledge that has come to me is an effect of my action, then that effect cannot be permanent. One of the principles in the Vedas is yat kritakam tat anityam. That which is the result of any activity is anityam, cannot be permanent. Because the cause is finite, the cause is limited, the effect is limited. So no matter how hard I have worked, it's still a finite, limited entity. And so my ignorance, even if it vanishes, the knowledge that I get, it won't be permanent because the cause is. And therefore, the self-knowledge that is revealed to me is not seen as the result of any activity. And because it is not the result of activity, the word that we commonly use is, it's grace. Because I haven't done anything, because it's not the result of my actions. Now, whose grace can it be here? Well, it's the grace of the self. And in that sense, it is said, the self chooses the person who doesn't seek anything other than the self. So one of the things that is very important in spiritual life is a single-minded focus. And we see that in life, that whenever I want something, if I channelize all my energy, all my time to getting that one thing, then I will get it quickly and surely. But on the other hand, if simultaneously I'm pursuing several goals and say 50% of my time and energy is for this, 30% for this, 20% for this, then I'm really budgeting my available time and energy to it. I will eventually get it, but because I'm budgeting smaller portion of my resources, it's going to take time. And so what this verse says is, if I give my entire self to the self and nothing else, then the self will choose me, and then tasyaisha atma vivrunute tanum swam. To him, to such a person, the Atman reveals its own form. So my own form will be revealed to me if I seek nothing but my true self. That is the idea. Why should I not seek anything else? This is further described and clarified in the following verse, 24. Na virato duscharitat, na shanto da samahitaha, na shanta manaso vapi, prajnanenainamapnuyat. Na avirataha duscharitat. Now, which are the people who will not be able to know the self until they remove some of these essential weaknesses? So who are those people? Neither those who have not refrained from wickedness. Na avirataha duscharitat. Charitra is often a word that is used in Sanskrit and other things as character. Duscharita means bad character. Na avirataha. Avirataha, one who has not stopped doing things which produce a bad character. That is what is translated here as one who is not refrained from wickedness. So, as long as these tendencies which keep me tied down to the perishable, worldly, material things, until those tendencies are not removed, until I don't withdraw myself from those tendencies, I will not be able to know the Atman. The second, na ashantaha. Shanta means one restraining. Ashantaha means unrestrained. So we know in not only in spiritual life, but in just in life itself in general, a life without restraint would bring nothing but pain and suffering to us. If you sit for a meal and there's, let's say, some very delicious meal, and you keep on eating unrestrained, that's going to bring a lot of pain at some time, because eventually you have to digest all that stuff. So all kinds of problems will arise even if I'm not restrained in my eating, if I'm not restrained in my drinking, if I'm not restrained in my speaking. So all activities, secular or spiritual, if there is no discipline, if there is no restraint, if I forget that sense of proportion, then I cannot be fit for knowing the Atman. So what it calls for is discipline. To know exactly, everything has a place in life. Eating, drinking, resting, relaxing, studying, exercising, all of these things are important. But I should know where every one of these things fits in the larger picture. And if I'm able to give every activity the importance and the value it deserves, then it can lead to my growth, to make me a strong person. But if I lose that sense of proportion, if I do too much or too little of any of these things, then that affects my growth. And that is going to then delay my self-knowledge. Then na asamahitaha, the one who is unmeditative. So samadhana means concentration. Sometimes the word samadhana in many Indian languages is used for contentment. But that's because the two are related really. That only when my mind is calm and focused, then contentment results. So samadhana really means concentration. And that is absolutely necessary for meditation. So if I have to now focus my attention on the Atman, and if I do not have that meditative state of mind, if I'm not able to keep my mind calm, then I won't be able to focus on the Atman. And therefore, I will not get the knowledge of the Atman. Na ashanta manasaha, not with an unpacified mind. So, this analogy will come in many different contexts. In the Raja Yoga, in Patanjali's Raja Yoga, the mind is often, they use the imagery of a lake or a body of water. The mind is like that. And when that water is still, without any waves or ripples, then it's a very actually beautiful sight, a water which is still. And if it is clean, you can see even what is at the bottom of the lake, because it just reflects everything clearly. But if the water is muddy and if it is disturbed, then you can't see anything. Now, the water of our mind has both of these problems. First of all, it's not clean because the desires for the perishable, material, worldly things makes it muddy. And then it also disturbs that water. Because once I say, oh, I lack this, I want this, there's another ripple. There's one, anytime there is a regret in the mind, there is a ripple. So every thought process, every emotion, every feeling will produce this ripple. And therefore, it says, na ashanta manasaha, unpacified mind. So what we need is a mind which is still. In fact, in the Kathopanishad itself, Shankaracharya, in his commentary, uses the same analogy. He says, when Yama was so happy, so pleased to see a disciple, a student like Nachiketa, and Shankaracharya says in his commentary, because the mind of Nachiketa was like a huge lake which is completely still, undisturbed. Then in Sanskrit he says, Maharadavat akshobhyamanaha. Maharadavat, big lake, akshobhyamanaha, it is not disturbed at all. Now that is how our mind needs to be. We need to train our mind. Even if it is may not be there, we may not be there yet, but we need to train. And how do we train doing that? One way of doing that would be to not get too excited or too upset by anything in life. And that can come, it's not difficult, with a little bit of practice. So the two important qualities are, they say anuddharsha. Anuddharsha means, even if it's a good news, even if it is something wonderful, of course, we are going to be happy if something nice happens. But sometimes, some people just go overboard. If I start like yelling and jumping, sometimes sports fans will do if their team wins. Now, all of these extreme reactions are going to produce a reaction within. So, Uddharsha means excitement, over-excitement. Anuddharsha means keeping my excitement under check, even if it is a good news. And then there is the other side of it, avasada. Avasada means like being down in the dumps. It's like extreme sadness. Now, sometimes if there is a bad news, we can be very down. We can feel very depressed. So, people who cannot control either of these extremes, that over-excitement or like a total sadness, they will not be able to, so that is what is being referred to as ashanta manasa. The mind goes to the extremes of reactions. So one way of training ourselves is, in the lives of all of us, there are ups and downs, everyone. Some people are good at hiding it, some people are not so good at hiding it. That's the only difference. There is not a single living being, not just human being, even animals. Everyone has ups and downs in their lives. The training really means, can I keep myself under control, in the sense that whether it's a good news or a bad news, it should not overwhelm me. Of course, if there is good news, I have a right to be happy. I'm not saying just be like a wall, like no reaction. That's not what I'm suggesting. By all means, enjoy your happiness, but keep that happiness under control. Because this is an important thing, if I cannot keep my happiness under my control, I will not be able to keep my misery under control. The two are related. And so both, whether it's a good news or a bad news, be in control of yourself. If I can do that, then it's possible then to meditate well. Because even in meditation, there are going to be good days, there are going to be bad days. There are days when you are going to just feel wonderful. Heart is going to be filled with love, filled with that longing for God. Then there are going to be what are sometimes called the dry days, when like, the mind refuses to concentrate, there is no mood to pray, no mood to meditate. And so, if I don't have that control, it's so easy to go from one extreme to the other. But a steady person is one who says, whether there is a good mood or a bad mood, happiness or sorrow, I'm just going to do what needs to be done. That's the slow and steady way a spiritual seeker has to move. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a traditional farmer, a hereditary farmer. Let's say he says that when they have been farming for generations, then if some days there's going to be good rain, a good crop, good yield, you'll make a lot of profit. Sometime there's not going to be enough rain. With all climate change now, everything has become unpredictable. But those who are traditional, hereditary farmers, they don't give up farming. They say, this is what we do. Good weather, bad weather. Good rain, bad rain. This is what we'll do. That's the attitude for a spiritual seeker. Because there are sometimes people find, oh, in farming, I can make a lot of money. So some people from urban areas who just go into farming, say, for making money. And maybe first 1 or 2 years, they make a lot of money. And then there is a kind of a drought or something, and then nothing grows. And they're like, oh, 2 years now, we have been going into loss. So just forget it, sell it, and then go and do something else. We don't want to be like that in spiritual life. Because sometimes in spiritual life, things are going to look wonderful and rosy and great, and you're just going to enjoy it. And then sometimes suddenly this dry period comes. And then you feel like, oh, forget it. What's the point in meditating? I'm not able to concentrate. I don't feel good about it. And so people may slip away from their spiritual practice. Such people, the word says, will not know the self. So the things required are neither those who have not refrained from wickedness, nor the unrestrained, nor the unmeditative, nor one with unpacified mind can attain this even by knowledge. Prajnani. So, even if I study the Kathopanishad well, understand everything in it, reflect on it, but either I have not refrained from wickedness, if my life is not, there is no restraint in my life, if I don't meditate well, if my mind is not pacified, then none of this study is going to help. And so we see the importance given here on the inner culture. That is more important than just the number of books that we have studied. Verse 25. Yasya brahma chakshatrancha ubhe bhavata odanaha mrityuryasya upasechanam ya ittha veda yatra saha. Otherwise, who thus knows where he is? He whose food is the Brahmana and the Kshatriya, and whose condiment is the pickle, is death. So this is sometimes I say the pickle is very old in the Indian food probably, because you find a kind of a indirect reference to it. And he says, death. No, why death is a pickle? And what is this Brahmana and Kshatriyas? Now we know that in the social system in the Indian subcontinent, so they had these categories. We know societies in different parts of the world can get categorized in different ways. In India, one of the ways it was done is through this caste system. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, the priestly caste, the warrior caste, and so on. And many other places, sometimes the classification, social classification, can occur through wealth, the rich and the poor, or the haves and the have-nots, or it can come through class. Class, so the upper class, the lower classes. So it could be class, it could be caste, it could be race, it could be gender. So there are any number of ways society finds to make groups and classifications, say who is higher and lower. And what this verse points out is that in that oneness of the spirit, oneness of the Atman, all these social distinctions, the distinctions we make between one group and another group, they just disappear. Look, it's food. there is this food here. When I eat the food disappears from the plate. So this whole distinctions that we have in society, once you are immersed in the Atman, all these distinctions vanish. What to speak of the distinction? Even death. That everyone is terrified of the idea of death. And even that death is just like a pickle. So it's like, that also is like, not even, death is not even given the what even called food as such. It's just a little bit of a pickle just for taste. Anyway, so what this verse points out is, unless I have all these essential qualities mentioned in the earlier verse, merely studying the text is not enough. Because in that highest knowledge, all these distinctions will vanish. Even death will become meaningless. Now, in order to get that, I need to have all these essential qualities. That's the message that comes to us in these three verses, 23, 24, and 25. Do you have any thoughts, ideas, questions? So we come to the end of this section. So next week we'll begin with the next section. So if you have any thoughts, ideas, or questions about what we have discussed today or in the earlier verses, feel free to ask.
Swamiji, in the past you've said that even one selfless action is worth more than all of the spiritual knowledge in the world combined.
Say that again? Oh.
Even one selfless action is worth more than all of the collective scriptures combined.
Mm-hmm.
That just that an action, like actions speak.
Yeah,
actions have much more value than just knowledge.
Yes, I mean it's like this. The knowledge that we have of study of the thing, that knowledge is stored in the brain. Now, if I do a selfless action, the action itself disappears, in the sense that if I feed the hungry selflessly, now that I'll probably do a few minutes or an hour or whatever time. So the duration of the action is still limited. But if I have done it selflessly, it produces purity of heart. Now that purity that it has produced in my heart, that is more lasting than this knowledge that I am stored in my brain. And through that purity, the clarity of vision I have can give me the knowledge of the self. And that is why the Swami Vivekananda's often quoted words were that an ounce of practice is worth tons of theory. So yes, that's what is meant here.
Swamiji, how do we know that now we know the Atman? What are the criteria?
So long as there is the doubt whether I know it or not, we can be sure I don't know it.
So how do I know that?
That's what I'm saying. How do you know the Atman? Well, to do all the things that this book says. But if I truly know the Atman, there will never be a doubt in my mind, whether have I already known it or not known it. That doubt won't be there. Does it make sense? Yeah. No? I thought you raised your hand. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Okay. So we will stop here today, and then next week we'll start with the new section, the Tritiya Valli. Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Muhuhu. For the Sunday satsang, our subject will be Life's 7 stages. on the next Wednesday, we'll continue with the study, begin the new section in the Kathopanishad. And Tuesday and Saturday, our meditation will also continue as usual. So let's conclude with a prayer now. May the Divine Being, who is the Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Aura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, the Great Spirit of the Native Americans, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May we be granted strength, freedom, and clear understanding. May we learn to see God in our own hearts and in everyone around us. May God bless us all and fill our hearts with gratitude, grace, and love. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.